Welcome to the Bear Tiger podcast, episode 19. Can you believe? Slightly different this week. We're in Dubai. I say we, James and I, although we're not sitting together because we don't have our equipment. So we're having to use some sort of mad app technology called Zoom. And we're it's in different spots. How are you, Jimbo?
All good, mate. All good. Nursing a bit of an injury from my win today, but other than that, I'm in good spirits.
You've got wind today. Oh.
Hey.
Yeah, here he is. Yeah, so we've had a couple of days playing golf. We had some filming yesterday over at Dubai Hills. We did a best ball break par. I broke par. James came in on the 18th with a lovely, about 10-foot putt, the last for a par to get us out of jail.
Yeah, it's good. So we broke. We'll let everybody watch it, shall we? See how we get on.
Yeah, it was a solid day. Had quite a riveting start on the first hole, and then James didn't quite have his best. Maybe a bit jet lag, got off the flight, got it together a little bit on the back nine, started to contribute in some form. He contributed with some banter and some outtakes in the front nine. Game stepped up a bit on the back nine, and then he carried that good form into today. And we had another match today, just him and I, over at the Hills, and he finished with a fantastic birdie finish to win one up. So well done, James. Round of applause there, mate.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very rare that I beat you, and always savour it when I do. And still bought lunch, so can't take all the wins at once, but enjoying it.
Yeah, good man. Unfortunately, we didn't actually really knuckle down what we were playing for, lunch or dinner. But I'm happy to buy you dinner when the chance arises. Also, we played yesterday. We played with a Canadian, Mac Boucher, I think his name is. Some of you might know him from social media. He's got quite a big following on Instagram, and he hits some crazy shots. So he's worth following. Nice guy too, wasn't he, Jim?
Oh, mate, really, really lovely guy. Also brought one of his pals along that he seems to have an ongoing rivalry with, fairly similarly, who was just a monster. I mean, just, apparently he's like 130, 135 club head speed, which he calls his gamer speed, which is just astronomical. So God knows what he can do when he wants to crank it just for the band. But yeah, really lovely guy. I mean, I used to think that I could hit a bit of a loopy draw as a left-hander, but this guy just took the biscuit. I mean, just saw shots that I didn't even know existed, and was quite content curving it 60, 70 yards, hitting the ball high, hitting it low. I mean, hit some unbelievable fairway woods with sort of, barely getting off the ground, weren't they? With, 30 yards of curve on them, and was clearly an absolute player in his time. So, yeah, no, it was enjoyable, and enjoyable to play with a fellow lefty as well.
Yeah, he was really good. We were nearly outnumbered, Victor and I, with the lefties and righties. But, yeah, I'm actually going to post a video, which I've actually just cleared with him that he didn't mind me posting. Took a video of him on the 17th, hitting a mad cut through with thing that I've actually managed to put a shot trace on, believe it or not. So yeah, I'm going to post that on my Instagram, so go and check that one out.
Awesome.
Yeah, but let's move on. I was out here for the DP World Championship, got to commentate on the weekend, did a bit of work with BBC Radio, and then local Dubai Eye radio station doing a bit of on-course comms. Brilliant finish, brilliant wins. I mean, the leaderboard was really stacked, which was great to see. Really good for the DP World Tour, which really, in my opinion, needed so big. The start of the week was taken up by the chatter of world ranking points, what with a much less talented field in terms of world rankings being played at the RSM Classic over at the amazing Sea Island in Georgia, which had 150 odd players, against the very talented higher ranking field here in Dubai, but only has 60 players. So John Rahm early in the week was more than happy to let everyone know that it was discussed that the low amount of world ranking points being handed out for the DP World Championship this week. But, this is what the boffins have come up with, and that is the system. They know how it works. So, but really good play from a lot of players. Unexpected as well. The guys that seem to play well on the earth course, or it seems to suit their game, have basically got like an ATM machine every time it comes back here. Hatton, McIlroy, Fitzpatrick, Rahm. Just
Fleetwood.
They can't not shoot 15, 16, 17 under. Tommy's not. Has he won the DP World Championship?
He won. Obviously, I think he had to finish in the top 4, didn't he, that time to guarantee that he won the race to Dubai. So came here and and played well under the gun. But I think he's just another one of those players who, albeit a slightly subdued field, like always finishes in the top 5 or thereabouts. He's someone who I think enjoys it out here. Obviously now moved here, now got the coaching academy down at JG as well. But I think Hatton's probably the one, isn't he? He's really good each way money every time they come to the Jumeriah Golf Estates.
Yeah, I would say Hatton's one. Rory's not bad though, is he?
Rory's all right.
Rory and John Rahm. John Rahm has never
Rahm,
shot worse than -17 in the DP World Championship. That's his crap shit week, basically. So,
mental.
Funnily enough, he was the champion this week, and he kind of dominated. I feel like John Rahm had a point to prove for a little while because he is a class player, and he's not really been in that conversation now for a while of being world number one without really playing. He's not playing badly. He's just not really dominated like we know he can. He's always been there and thereabouts. He's just been out of that conversation for a while about world number one. And I feel like he's kind of got to the point where he's like, I'm fed up with everyone talking about everybody else. I want some attention back on me. And he's absolutely busted this week. Unflappable, really. No one got near him that last round. There was thinking someone going to make a run, but I think maybe with Rory starting with a -1 in the first round was just a bit too far back.
Yeah, and I think to his credit with Rahm as well, I think every time somebody turned it on a little bit, he found birdies himself, didn't he? As soon as someone got within one, he pulled away again and again and again and again and again, and just went on a run. So I think a couple of players continued to play well in the final round, both Noren and Hatton shooting kind of low rounds, but he's just matched them shot for shot. And whether he's a scoreboard watcher or it's just a very, very natural trait, but he's gone and found birdies at all the holes that everybody else is picking up on. And someone told me a statistic, which I haven't checked, but I'll respect them on their merit. Said that Rahm's now won 3 of his 4 starts at the Earth course, which is in line with your comment around course specialist. I mean, that's pretty elite. So yeah, he was just in a class of his own this week. I always think when his putter looks good, he seems to just keep putting rounds and rounds and rounds together. And a tee to green golfer, he's been in the top 5 players now for a really long time, isn't he? But when he gets the putter hot, he seems to dominate quite comfortably.
Yeah, well, his short game and putting has been a bit off this year, but his driving's still been exemplary all the way through. And as you say, like as soon as he starts to putt half decent, everyone's in bother, really, aren't they? That is it. But good to see Rory also finish off and take the DP World Championship year-long title off of like just an absolutely stunning year to win the FedEx Cup, be number 1 in America on the PGA Tour, be number 1 in Europe, and be number 1 in the world.
Yeah,
just all credit to him with everything he's kind of had going on. And what I mean by that is just he's kind of taken the weight of this fight between the LIV and the PGA Tour. And he's been happy to be a spokesperson for the PGA Tour and give his opinions openly and really, really stand up for a lot of the players. So I think that's really galvanised him. I know we chatted already on this, but it has really galvanised Rory. And he's just, I saw some of his comments afterwards, and he says he's more of a complete player now than he's ever been, he feels, which if someone like Rory saying that's pretty special. I mean, I think the big turning point this year has been his wedge play. He's now gone from one of the poorer wedge players to being one of the best wedge players in the world, which has just been brilliant to see because he's now taking advantage of those amazing drives that he hits.
Well, I think that's the point. I don't think it's his short game. I think actually it's probably one of his superpowers that doesn't get talked about enough, how good his hands are around the green. But I think his where he went through that little patch where maybe he was finishing well in tournaments but not getting wins over the line, were just maybe his dispersion to the hole with what seemingly always seems to be a short iron because he just sends nukes out there time and time again. It just looked like he was maybe hitting it to 18 to 20 feet, too often instead of having those ones where you get more kick-ins or really good looks from kind of 4 to 10 foot. And he seems to just be hitting it stiff so much more now. And then, and he seems to be a player that thrives on playing on momentum and just goes and runs with birdies. He knows when par 5s come around, he's got the ability to apex irons at like 150, 160 and give himself looks for eagle probably as much as he does give himself looks for birdie with a pitch and wedge through to a sand wedge, which is just crazy. So now that, like you said, he's galvanised that and really come through, he just looks like he could win every single week he goes out on tour now, which must be an amazing feeling. But at the same token, it's just obviously very tough for other players in the field. They just know if he's playing, they've got to find their best golf, which is what you probably want from a number one ranked player, right? We've been used to it with the dominance of Tiger. So I think Rory's not only deserved to get to world number one, he's also very much entering tournaments playing like one as well.
Oh yeah, this is it. You know, Scottish effort for so long held that world number one without really having this kind of presence in a tournament. Like you could almost not notice him being there, but you know with Rory, whenever he's there, you know, there's a real buzz about the place. And there was definitely that here at the Earth Course. The Earth Course is played brilliant. When I first came here, I wasn't that enamoured by the Earth Course. Didn't like it very much. There's a few kind of tee shots which you can't, you know, you got to drive it over, you're hitting into a sea of bunkers. And then the main thing here is that the approach shots, you can't see where the ball finishes because you're playing uphill a lot or the big bunker guy on the front of the green. But once you get to know the course, as some of these players now do know, it is quite scoreable because it's a long old track north of 7,500 yards. And this year they grew the rough in. But you know what happens is the fairway's a bit smaller, grow the rough, but the good golfers hit down the middle. So, you know, there's not really an issue to them. I was chatting to Todd Clements, who's just got his card, actually got to play a bit of golf with him out here last week. And he'd been over there in the run-up to the event talking to some of the players, and they were really amazed by it. They thought it was going to play tougher this year than it ever had done. Yet the scoring was still, you know, it's all, I think the top 10 were all still north of, I think, 14 under par.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I noticed from being very fortunate to be here on the Sunday, and I walked around and watched Rahm and Fitzpatrick and managed to watch Rory and Noren play 9 holes as well, which was great. But being fortunate enough to play quite a lot of golf in Dubai over the last few years, I mean, I haven't found...
Do you reckon you play more golf here than anywhere else in the world?
Probably. Definitely since we were living here in 2020, I probably would say so. I've definitely played as like a much wider spread. It's probably... Do you know what, actually? Dubai, even though it's a city, but if you count it as a equivalent to a country, it's probably the golf course, it's probably the area in the world I've played the lion's share of the golf courses in. I don't think there's a course here that I haven't played. Balali,
which is a nice little track there, the 9-hole down there.
Really nice. And I haven't played the Montgomery, but other than that, I've played every single course in Dubai. So I wouldn't be able to say that even about England. I've been a golfer there for 25 years. So, I think you're probably right.
In England, aren't there?
Yeah, no, there definitely is. But I think the most noticeable thing for me was how much more narrower it was for the pros from being an amateur playing around it, kind of when it's normally set up for the members. I mean, in areas, it looked 20 yards narrower in a fairway. I mean, they were landing the ball in strips, especially like holes like 9, which is a real killer of a long par 4. You know, and that fairway was probably 16 to 18 yards wide, and you've got to really send it down there, haven't you? Because you've got a long iron in your hand still. So,
all right, and here's the question: Sunday pins, 10 handicap, a 5 handicap, and a scratch handicap. What do they shoot around the Earth for Sunday pins? DP World setup, long rough, small fairways, quick hard greens.
Yeah, so I think you can. For a scratch, I think you can probably...
You've got to pay out, no gimmies.
Yeah. I think for a scratch golfer, he'd probably expect to go round in 7 to 8 more than he'd normally shoot round there. For a 5...
What are they shooting then? What's the numbers?
So I think a scratch golfer would be really content with breaking 80, like really content. You know, but 80 to 82. I think a 5 would be really happy with a 86 to 88. And a 10 breaking 90 would be great. I mean, because you're going to be playing out.
I just think a 10 handicappers is not breaking 90.
No, it's tough. Yeah.
Not sniffing it. With every ball having to go down, I just can't see it.
Well, yeah, talking just. I tell you what, where that course becomes scoreable. Shoots. Yeah, where that course becomes scoreable is and where I think they've shot deep under par, because pros are phenomenal at it, especially tour pros. You notice that so much, because there's so many slopes around the earth course. When they've tucked pins, you can get quite a lot of groundwork. You can get the ball helping you out a lot. So I think you can still get the ball close enough to the hole, but then obviously you've got 14 stimp meter greens with like loads and loads of curve on them. So I wouldn't even know how to answer that question, to be honest. The numbers are probably
For
way
me,
higher.
I think a scratch handicapper doesn't break 80. A 5 handicapper, I think they'll be more than happy to break 90. And I think a 10 handicapper is going to be shooting in mid 90s.
Right, okay.
And without really playing too badly, is it, in my opinion? From just because of the rough and the chipping around the greens. It's got to go down, and it's so long. You know, they've got 500-yard par fours out there. It's absolutely beast like that. And imagine you missed a fairway in a 500-yard par four, and he's hacking you out the hole.
You're effed.
It becomes so difficult. All right.
I was so impressed with how well they drove the ball. It was the landing areas were so tight. They just had it on a string. It was mad.
That's the main difference between pros, tour pros, and good amateurs, really, is that there's always this understanding or thought that, like, oh, it's all about the putting. They all hit it the same, but they don't. Like, they're not as good. The best players drive it the best more often than not, as a general rule. And then the ones who are struggling to keep their card are maybe not quite as good off the tee as the very, very top boys. And I think that's kind of shown up by. And so there's obviously going to be anomalies to that rule, but look at John Rahm, look at Rory McIlroy, like Dustin Johnson. They're the best drivers of the ball in the world, long and straight, and yet they sit in that category where they've not even got to play good to be world number one. They've not got to play their best to be world number one, should I say? Whereas all the other players, they've got to be at their absolute peak of their powers. Like a Jordan Spieth, for instance, he's got to be at the peak of his powers to be world number one. So for me, driving is always a thing. And as you said, that's what people don't realise. Like, the courses are longer and the roughs are thicker and the fairways are tighter. And that's it. I think if you would save more shots off the tee than you would ever on the greens for me as a tour player, because all the tour players putt pretty good, really. I think if you went on the putting green, you would think that actually they're all as good as each other. If you go to the drive range and watch people that drive, that's where you see the biggest disparity.
Well, I think the biggest testament to that is Matt Fitzpatrick. Added more speed, got way better with driver. I mean, he's added almost like 10 to 15 mile an hour ball speed. Maybe not quite 15 mile an hour, but he's always been recognised
as fast as you know.
He's always been recognised as one of the best putters in the game. But just what he's done with his long game has propelled him into the top 10 in the world. He's major champion. He looks like he competes most week he plays. So I think your point's absolutely valid, and I would say that. That's as good a testament as you can get, right? Someone like Fitzy now just looks so money off the tee. And he's a high 170, 180 player and hits it dead straight. And, now he's, like I said, major champion, top 10 golf in the world. And he's there every week, isn't he? Really pushed Rory to the brink this week and almost trying to nick that race to Dubai from him, but didn't quite get over the line.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good example, isn't he? Someone who's really stepped it up and gone out of his way to actually get faster, because he's always been mega straight. And I guess that's another thing. Like, he's always mega straight. So he was okay to go and try and get faster. I think if most people just try and hit it further, they'd just hit it further offline. I think the main advice for most people is hit it straighter, then try and get long, rather than, I think there's a bit of a push towards us go and hit it miles, and people just starting to wanging it around, hitting the tree too many times.
Yeah, exactly.
So Jimbo, talk about hitting it further. Your new driver, talk us about that. New Titleist TSR, new shaft.
Yeah, new shaft, completely new setup. I think it's been really good. I mean, it came out here a little bit blind, and one thing with the hills is you can't hit woods on the range, so I didn't really get to get a proper grasp of the flight with it. But went for a fitting. Really like the head. I always liked the TS4, which I had, which was 2 generations old now in Titleist. And then with TSI, I moved back to the 3, and I've been really, really enjoying now for some time the Ventus Red shaft, but can sometimes feel the tip softening on me a little bit. So they've now done a Velocore version of that, which is even more stable in the tip, and the TS4 head's taken a bit of spin out. So I've got my spin numbers now around sort of 22, 2300. And it just really feels like the ball keeps keeps going forward. So probably carrying it 5 to 8 yards less, but I'm getting so much more out of total driving. And I don't mind it not being in the air so long because it helps obviously with those offline shots. So yeah, no, I was really happy with that, and had the one that could go a little bit higher if I need to launch it a little bit more down the wind and ride it, and actually managed to hit a right of the post fade today, which is, for those that play golf with me will know, is an anomaly in my game. So yeah, that's pretty good.
I think you might have necked that.
Yeah, well, the middle of my club's in the hill.
Yeah, the hill's out of the middle. Yeah, maybe. So also let's I think this will be quite a relatable story. I think now Nicole knows about the purchase. We can probably chat about it. You did buy some new clubs recently, which were just an amazing looking set of clubs. I'll admit they looked absolutely brilliant, but frustratingly they just didn't work. Which is, how annoying is that? Like, a brand new set of clubs look great, they should be the right spec, but sometimes they just don't fit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's obviously very tough with golf equipment. You go for fittings, and you're hitting balls off mats, which is a slightly different complex than hitting them off grass.
Yeah, hitting the ball, it's definitely different off the mat. You've got a bit more forgiveness, but the numbers definitely come out different off the mat. Like when I go to hit balls out Wisley, and I get the quad out, my spin numbers drop a lot with irons from the mat, which is odd, and it's mat to mat. Like if it's firmer, there's a firm part of the mat, it goes one way, and if it's a soft part of the mat, it comes off. It is quite tricky to try and get that crossover. And also I was seeing a study recently that people's dispersions off mats are much tighter than they are off grass.
Well, less spin as well, right? So it will affect the side spin a bit as much as it will kind of the flight and stuff of the shot. So I think you would expect to disperse it slightly less with an iron, because I think actually I'm normally kind of, the reason I've always played Project X shafts is I always work off 7-iron and work my spin numbers kind of either side, but I'm a solid kind of 65 to 6700 spin number, which is just under kind of, I would probably say being quite optimal with if you can always get the number on the bottom of the club and get something as close to that with 3 zeros on the end of it, you're in a really good place, right? So 7-9 is 7,000, 8-iron is 8,000, so on and so on. So, but if I go and hit balls on a quad in a fitting setup off of a standard kind of driving range mat, I can spin it as low as like 4,800, 4,900 for 7-iron. So it's so much more difficult to get a real understanding of kind of how the ball's actually operating. And, in a lot of setups, you don't even get to play your own ball as well, which will make a massive difference to when you get out there. So, yeah, you've got to take all those things into consideration. And I've always used the same grip, the same amount of tape underneath it. I always play the same swing weight. I've been playing Project X 6.5 shafts now for a few years. They've been really good to me. But yeah, I've now had these Titleist 620 CB-MB combos, which I tried to replace with Mizuno's, didn't work. Tried to replace them with Ping I-59s, looked amazing, didn't work, came out too low. And then gone through the motions now of obviously making this combo set of TaylorMade, which I think I've been talking to you about for months now. Aesthetically, I really, really like them. But when I got them out into a on-course situation, they just didn't profile behind the ball the same way and just came out totally differently. So yeah, and another set that probably is looking for a new home on eBay. I've done the same thing with putters actually. That 5.5 head now, I had the one before in the Phantom, which was really good with, and they brought a new one out which aesthetically is absolutely identical. It's just a slightly bigger hitting area, so it's slightly more forgiving, which is better for your kind of off-centre strikes. And I've tried to use a blade, go to another mallet, just because I like chopping and changing. I love collecting gear, but I can't move away from those Titleist irons.
Hey, Nicole might be listening.
Putter.
You can't be saying that sort of stuff. Nicole might be listening.
Yeah, she tried to ring me. She's probably got a live feed into my hotel room. So
what do you mean? I'm
hearing all of this. I'm shutting your Amex down. So yeah, no. Look, an experiment that just didn't come good, right? And managed to still hit some pretty nice iron shots today with my Titleist back in my bag. So I think they're here to stay. Yeah,
for at least a week or two, I'm sure. I'm absolutely
exactly.
Sure. Yeah, it's funny with equipment, isn't it? Like at the moment, I've got this sand wedge that I bought. I actually ended up buying from Replay Golf. like literally second hand. I just wanted to get something quick, and it was like kind of a bit of custom Vokey, and the back was shaved. I thought, I'm just going to buy that, and it's been an absolute revelation. I reckon I've holed in last 3 rounds. I think I've holed like 3 or 4 shots off the green with it. It's just some second hand thing, which I find that fascinating about golf now, is that there's this whole like little underworld of like, you got all your new gear because you're a man that likes your new golf gear and the brand new stuff. And you know, my dad's very similar. Like, he likes having all the up to date gear, all the up to date stuff. But for myself, like, I just like stuff that works. And I just think, as you go on, I think you've got to be really picky with the companies, because sometimes they do come out with new products that are not necessarily better than the last product. And that is something I would always question. Because, like, for instance, Richard Bland, Justin Rose, both still using the TaylorMade M2. And the M2, what we had the 3, 4, 5, 6, Sim Max, and now we're on the Stealth. So seven drivers old, that. And some of the best players in the world, and the most money of anyone on the planet, is using drivers that are 7 generations old, which is just mind-boggling. Well, it's not mind-boggling. It just shows what some things companies just get things right.
And I read somewhere, until Stealth came out, which I think Rory, for the first time, got really involved in the cosmetics and the build, and was asking TaylorMade to make a driver that was much more in tune with how he delivers the club. He was sort of begging
on his knees, please.
Golf Perf channels. He wanted to go back to the M2, right? But I think they were kind of like, no, you know, because a lot of people don't understand these pros, even though they're staff players, they've also got contractual obligations to stay in line with the latest technology and things like that. So even as a TaylorMade player, he wasn't able to go to something else within their range. If what I read to be true.
Is that why you change your stuff? There's obligations.
I haven't got obligations. I just like changing. The one thing I would say, which I think's been very true, and you're an advocate of.
Yeah, and I would say you do always get left-handed clubs. That is one constant for you.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I'm not making the move there. But the one thing I would say around I'd say around fittings for the listeners, which I would say actually people should take way more care over, and you and I have always discussed this, and you've tinkered around with this particular conversation, which I think is working really well for you at the moment, is way more people should do a ball fitting and actually get a golf ball, because that's the only actual real consistent in golf that you do the same thing every single time. Doesn't matter whether you use driver, iron, lob, wedge, putter. The thing that you hit at the same time is always the golf ball. And I would implore people actually to go and get a proper ball fitting, and not be completely biased to a particular manufacturer, but go and get a proper ball fitting, because there's so many alternatives on the market now, and the technology that goes into them, 3-piece, 4-piece, 5-piece, and things like that with golf balls now. And I think actually with that little change that you made recently, and because you found something with that left dash Pro V1X, which 99% of people won't even know exists, you know, because it's somewhere in between the red and the black ball. And that's worked wonders for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, it has. And I was chatting to Todd Clements. He says, just got his tour card. Anyone knows the podcast will know that he's a friend of the podcast. Now, I've coached him in the past. He's now one of my good pals, young up and coming player. And he's a tightest player through and through. And we were chatting about the different golf balls and so forth, because, you know, we played together last week and get on the green, and he loves all his equipment and stuff. He picks my ball up. Oh, he's got a left dash. And he was talking about Adam Scott. And Adam Scott is still using the Pro V1 2013 ball. Wow. He's using a ball which is 9 years old, and he's the only person. Everyone else had to move on from that, but there's still 7 different Pro V1Xs in play, as I understand it, different versions of it, which is mad, really. The reason I got the ball I got now is because I played with Liam McDougall, who's the head tour boss man fitter at Titleist, and this was a little while ago. I played with him and Ollie Ross, who works for TBTC as well, and he had a Pro V1, and it sounded a bit clicky, chipping. I said, that sounds a bit hard, that. He said, yeah, this is the one that the Corn Ferry players use. And if you're into your stats and whatever, it's worth go online and see your driving distances for the main tours. And the main tours, it may be updated in the last couple of years, but you've got PGA Tour, Corn Ferry Tour, Asian Tour, and European Tour or DP World. And it's like a graph. And the Asian Tour is the shortest. Let's say that for argument's sake, let's say the average is around 285. And then PGA Tour, it's slightly higher than European at about, like 296, 297. But DP World and PGA Tour are very similar. But then the Corn Ferry Tour is like nearly 10 yards longer than those other tours. And he said that they all use, this is the ball they all use, the Pro V1 left dash, which is just that bit firmer. It's a clicky noise, but it still spins around the green. So if you can get past the noise, it still works really well. And obviously part of the Corn Ferry players hitting it further is maybe the course aren't quite as tight or as penal. But they're slightly younger as well, so they're probably going after it a bit more, but everything is matched around distance. And yeah, getting the ball right can surely be one of those. It's helped me a little bit. I was using the Callaway ball previously to that. Again, really, really good ball. Probably the best ball in the wind, to be fair. I would say if you play in a bit of wind and so forth, Callaway for me doesn't move as much as the others. But that's really impressive in the wind. But yeah, it's like a bit more distance for that. This tightest left dash has worked quite well for me. I did try the normal black Posey one, but it just launched a bit low. It was a bit soft. Felt good around the greens, but even chipping, it launched a bit low, to be honest, a bit shooty. Depending on how you play it, that's another thing to kind of fit for. How does it feel chipping and putting? We all fit balls for drivers, don't we? But around your short game and so forth. So yeah, it's been a good change, that one. So yeah, just moving on really. Getting back to our experiences here in Dubai. So the weather's been great. Spent a bit of time down at the Claude Harmon Academy. Actually got to spend a bit of time with Claude himself during the coverage of the DP World Championship. We worked together doing the commentary on course for the last kind of 2 hours or so. Always fascinating chatting to Claude and hearing what he had to say about DJ and Brooks and what's going on with the live. And you know what? From what he told me, it sounded exciting next year for Live Tour. DJ owns his team. He's brought in a general manager from the NFL. It's really taken off next year in that team format. And, I also listened to Keith Pelly here. He came on the radio, did an interview with us at Dubai Eye. And he kind of let it slip, maybe, that in 2024, there's going to be big money events, small fields, which, that sounded like, okay, next year there's still going to be a bit of ups and downs and turmoil between the tours, but 2024 something is afoot and is launching for the DP World. So I think, we've got a really good time. I think golf's in a really good place at the moment. Todd Clements just got his card. Absolute best time to ever get his card. Got more money in golf now than ever before. What do you think, Jimbo?
Yeah, I think that's it. It must be very exciting for Todd, and he's obviously had such an exciting and successful amateur career, and then has gone through some highs and lows as a pro. But broke his duck, won on Challenge Tour this year, and now he goes through to the European Tour. And if he can, maybe he'll need to get a slight re-rank or not, or be playing. I'm not sure, but I think for the first time this year on the European Tour as well, if you play a certain number of events, I think they've guaranteed some money for players now, which, again, for those...
I think how it works, chatting to him, I think how it works is that they kind of like, if you, I think you're good for 150 grand. So if you don't make 150 grand, they give you the rest of it.
Right. Okay, cool. So you kind of got that underwritten, which, because again, I think from memory when I was doing some management in the past, we're always working to the notion that a player will see 40 to 43% after all expenses, taxes, and things like that. So, still that's kind of 60k for, in euros for a significant amount of time away, travel, load of obligations where you're living out of a suitcase. It's pretty tough. And then obviously you need to have the cash flow there to sort of part fund the following season and so forth and so forth. So I think it's great now that golfers who are probably, the most elite sport in the world that's pretty much self-employed, non-guaranteed about what money you make. You've got to perform in order to make a living. And And I think it's really exciting. I think if we could just find this pinch point where we can get away from some of the jovial he said, she said, and dick measuring exercises of the PGA Live and DP World Tour, we're in for some really, really exciting tournament golf and campaigns. And on the PGA Tour, I'm just really looking forward to getting into the crux of next season, when I think they've got, 6 to 8, $20 million prize fund events as well next year. I mean, they're going to be brilliant coming down the stretch. Just wondering whether or not now there's another 2.5 times on a traditional event, going from the kind of $6 to $8 million per purses into those, whether or not people behave slightly differently or get a little bit more nervous in these events now, just because they're going to be playing for such more considerable amounts of cash.
Yeah, I guess the two kind of trains of thought, isn't there? One is they've got a bit of house money to begin with. That's got to be quite a liberating factor.
Yeah, definitely.
The other part would be, as you say, like you're paying for a lot more money now than you ever have done before, which is amazing, really. And about time too. I think top tier level sport to get to essentially the Premier League standard. It's been a bit of a travesty that you could come out in a loss in the past. At least now you got, worst case you're going to break even and see a little bit for your troubles. But yeah, for these young players, like the world's their oyster. Obviously, there's going to be people who lose their card, as there always is. But just really great times. There's some great leaders at the top there. Okay, here's one for you, Jimbo. I know I've had my favourite player this week for entertainment. Who was your favourite player at the DP World that you saw?
Well, I actually really enjoyed watching Alex Noren play. I've always quite liked watching him play because, I used to be a student of Matt Belsham, so always stayed quite close to him, always understood. I've always been a hard...
If anyone doesn't know, Matt Belsham used to coach Alex Noren.
And I've always been someone who's been brought up, to have an exceptionally hard work ethic. And he's always been someone who's been touted as a workhorse, 15, 16-hour days on the range and really, really grinds away at his game. I was so impressed, actually, how comfortable he looked in that environment with all those top players, moved the ball both ways. I mean, and again, the way in which he makes that such big kind of swing for in his practice routine or in his pre-shot routine about kind of moving left and looks like it's to hold the face open and hit this kind of fade on call. But, quite often with a driver as well, he was sending kind of high draw bombs out there. And Rory wasn't actually pumping it that deep past him. He was within 5 or 10 yards of Rory, which actually I think is quite impressive, to be fair, because Rory hits it so deep. And just everything about his game. He hit a chip shot on 8, which was so filth in front of like a stacked crowd, because they had a big hospitality bit at the back with a stand, and he short-sided himself a bit of a wedge from the fairway and spun it off the front of the green. So on this ludicrous upslope, the pin's cut really, really sort of tight back left, so he's got no green to work with at all. And it's kind of sitting in those kind of lies, you get in Dubai where the first cut meets the fairway and they can be a bit bitty and grainy. So he's kind of in his practice shot, he's fanned what must be a lob wedge open, and he's taken sort of 4 to 6 inch divots with a shot that's only really got to carry 10 to 12 yards. And he's just gone boom, and he's hit this taken this sleeping bag of a divot. Everyone's going to. I generally think the crowd thought he's fatted it. Right, he's covered the bunker.
Big old comb over.
Covered the bunker and the first cut, pitched it about 4 foot short, and it's kind of one bounce, 2 bounce, and just geared up, and he's got a kick in, for his part. It was just such a filth shot. I was really, really, really impressed with him. I mean, all the top players in the world I find really, really impressive. But to answer your question, from most entertaining, I just adore Tyrrell on the golf course. I just think he's such good value. It's probably a bit of a.
He was going to be before you jump in there. He was going to be my one. I was going to say, if you go, if you saw some of the Zaya Golf, they posted some of his stuff, but there was just some brilliant moments with Tyrrell. Just what you get with Tyrrell, you get drama. Either really great when they hone in on him on the screen on the TV, you're going to get drama. You're going to get a great shot, or you're going to get an amazing reaction and soundbite. And there was 2. The first one, I think the first one was when they're kind of in on the tee with him, and he just hits his shot, and as it takes off, he just turns away, starts walking off, and just gives it fuck off straight away. And then the other one
into the mulch,
snipes it. Yeah, and he just snipes it down the left into the bushes, and he's like, I fucking hate this hole. Which, you know what? I think who hasn't had that moment on the golf course? I know I've definitely had those moments on the golf course. There's just some holes that have your number, which amazingly enough, it happens. There's some holes you get to, you hit nice shots on, whatever happens. There's some holes you just think, I play 4-round tournaments, and for some reason, 4 rounds in a row, you'll hit the ball in exactly the same bit of rough every day. You can almost throw a blanket over where they go. And it's just good to, like, you know, just so relatable, isn't he? Just like, he's happy to be out there, just head's gone. When he comes on the screen, especially as a commentator, he's not very good in terms of his swear. You have to apologise for him. But he's great because he just gives you some brilliant entertainment, start to finish. On my first event commentating for Discovery last year, doing the PGA Tour for the Arnold Palmer, they had a real close-up of him. He missed the green left in the long rough, had a really tricky lob shot, and the mic's right in on him. And it's like, oh yeah, Tyrrell's got a really difficult shot here, short-sided. And then you can hear the mic go up. So at that point, you stop talking because you know that the caddy and the player are going to discuss it. So you stop talking and let them kind of run the show. And he just throws it, and all the gallery are right there. He's surrounded by gallery, and he just goes to his caddy, right, like clear as day on the telly. This is a fucking joke. It's like, oh my God. So you go, oh, sorry about Tyrrell's language there. You know, very colourful language. Sorry about that. Big apologies. And then he has a couple of practice swings as if he's going to hit it, and he steps off and he just goes, got fucking no chance here. It's like, oh, sorry for Tyrrell's swearing there once again. You know, it's just obviously an intense moment. And to be fair to him, he stands up and plays one of the best lob shots you'll see all year to about a foot and a little tap in, got a little ripple, a little smile with his caddy, and off he went. But yeah, it was obviously not great for maybe for the watershed moments, but yeah, just absolutely brilliant. I love it when he comes on screen. You know you're going to get a soundbite out of him.
Well, just watching him at DP, like he hit a phenomenal shot into 5, which is kind of an iron off the tee. It's actually probably one of the more scoreable holes for the pros, isn't it? You know, it's a 4-iron kind of 240 down there into the fat part of the fairway, and then it's like a 120 shot. And where they cut the hole on the Sunday, it was really tucked behind a bunker, but it was in, again, like kind of one of those groundwork elements where it could work left to right for you off the slope. It's almost in a bit of a bowl, or you could spin it back. And he covered the trap. He probably hit it like 118. It took one bounce and just stopped dead and just rolled out slightly. And he had about 6 feet, but slippery little thing left. And his caddy looks like quite a young lad. I'm not sure if his caddy changed or not, if he's gone down the kind of Rory route with Harry and gone a friend on the bag. But if he misses a putt, the animation between walking from hitting it to kind of where he's then got to tap in from is just like, it's unbelievable. Ban. He comes in with his putter stays in his right hand, his left hand just starts kind of, you know, like throwing the invisible dice or like feeding the goat or whatever. His hand's just like, how's that move there? What you know, he just, and the caddy just kind of walks up. It's almost like he's glazed over, just like he's ready just to put the pin in and walks next to. He's like, come on, mate, just tap it in. Yeah, we'll go again on the next hole. You know, he just like blocked it out. But you've got however many hundreds and thousands of people kind of around the green just watching this. Like, I'm just all for it. Because like you said, I think it's so relatable. It's so incredibly mentally tough as a golfer to kind of stay totally in control of all your emotions when all the things that happen in golf take their toll over you. And he's obviously found a way where he can be quite extrovert and have these kind of sound offs where he just gets it all out in a little Tourette's moment for kind of a couple of seconds almost, but then obviously learn to manage it and gets on the next tee and just starts ripping it again and making birdies. Because I think you wouldn't have thought the way he kind of gets so elated that he's gone and shot 4 or 5 under par, right? But obviously works for him.
Yeah, it's always a bad day for him, isn't it? The way he trots around the golf course. But yeah, great fun. Okay, so got a couple of questions. Tom Price, kind of a golfer, _ kind of a golfer, is asked. Interested to know what golf trips you guys have got planned in the future you're looking forward to. I was supposed to be going to Mexico for a Pro-Am, which has now been put off.
Where was that being played there? Was that Maricopa or where were you going with that?
It was the El Dorado Resort, which is a Discoveryland resort, which we need to get Josh on really. We'll have a little chat about it one day. Like the Discoveryland golf resorts just do unbelievable golf experiences. So, we need to get Josh on for that one because we visited one down in Portugal. If you ever do get fortunate enough to get invited to a Discoveryland facility, or what do you call it, a piece of land, go. It's the best golfing experience you could ever have, especially if you like tequila. Nice. Then golfing-wise, golf trips. Josh is down in Bahrain this week playing the King Hamad Trophy. Good luck to him. He's taken one of his students down there. He's not won that before. Yes, he has won that before. He's won that before once down at the Royal Club in Bahrain. So really suits him down there. He likes playing in the Middle East. He's been playing really well all year. He's not competed that much. He's played a few Pro-Ams, so I'm pretty sure we can find a link somewhere. And we'll check
he's had a couple of Pro-Am Tour wins
on the Bear
of the year,
Tiger pod. Yeah, we'll chuck the link up for the King of May Trophy. So there's a couple of decent players down there. So yeah, be looking out for that one. And then golfing trips for me probably be back here in Dubai in January. The Goats have got a Wentworth event. That's not really a golfing trip, I suppose. When's your next golfing trip, Jimbo?
Well, I'm hoping that potentially there's Augusta again on the horizon. Had such an amazing trip there with JLT Nige and a few of the guys last April. So that's a possible. I think I've got a Florida trip at the end of May, June, which is the TBTC trip, which is really looking forward to. And then haven't really planned much beyond there. Don't really work much more than kind of 6 months in advance. I guess, again, not so much of a trip, but a period of golf all-in concession. Josh and I are entered into for our third showing of the Sunningdale Foursomes on March the 6th. So hopefully manage to get into that again, and that'll be good. So my game wasn't quite there last year as it was the year before. So,
under pressure now, mate. If you don't play very well, you won't be getting that next year. So
yeah, I know it was a bit touch and go this year. He put me under the gun, but I've been playing a lot better since he put me under the gun and adding a 5-wood in to the bag this year, which will be really, really useful around Sunningdale. So yeah, looking forward to that. So yeah, some stuff coming up, but it's winter at the moment, isn't it? I think we're trying to get in the simulators a bit now, get practicing.
Well, here's a question which Robbie Greenfield put to us on the radio show, which I thought was quite good. So without too long an explanation, because I haven't got too much time, the first question is going to be, we'll both do it. Will Rory win a major next year?
Yes, I think he will win more than one.
More than one. I think he'll win one for sure. I hope, fingers crossed, it's going to be the Masters. Fingers crossed for that one. Be right back at Hoylake where he's won before. But yeah, the Master, I think he'll win one. Second one would be, who's going to be the breakout player next year?
Oh, it's a good one. Who's going to be the breakout player next year? Oh, it's really tough to go on the spot with that. I really quite like the look of this lad, Montgomery, who's come onto the PGA Tour at the back end of this season.
Colin Montgomery, he's never heard of him. What's he ever done?
Yeah, I think it's with a Y on the
Do you
end.
even know his first name? I think
it's is it Troy?
This is like a nice little question for, isn't it? Without Googling it.
I think it begins with T. I think is it Troy?
No.
It might even be Taylor.
One more guess.
Okay.
Yes, no. Taylor. That's what it is.
There you go. Okay, cool.
I can hear you tap into your phone.
No, I'm not tapping into my phone. My arms across. I was tapping my feet. I was elated with that. Yeah, I think when he's come on the screen, I think he's looked like a really, really complete golfer. But he's not to not sort of be so much of a breakout. He kind of broke out last year. I'm really looking forward to watching Cameron Young get into his season this year. I thought he was a phenomenal player who came through last year.
Two names. He's done this year. Apparently, he was on his way to live, but he backed out last minute. Little birdie told me. And then the last one is: will we win the Ryder Cup?
Oh, well, home soil. It's going to be tough. I think it'd be tighter than people expect. I think America think they're turning up there and they're going to rampage us. But yeah, I think we need a couple of our more experienced golfers who are going to come in as picks to like really, really play their part. You know, someone like a Justin Rose needs to, and he looks like he's potentially coming back into form. At the same token, I think we need some of our rookies to like really explode onto the scene. I'm looking forward to seeing maybe like the Højgaard brothers get involved. But I think obviously Rahm and Rory are pretty red hot at the moment. Hovland won't be a rookie anymore. I wouldn't want to say we'll win it, but I think we'll give him a really good game. How about you?
Actually, we've had I think, yeah, Ryder Cup. I just really like the way it's shaped up for Europe now. And I think we're back, and I think our good players are playing amazingly. So yeah, I think we're going to do it on home soil. You got that home advantage. Just real quick before we head to the heads-on, I had one of the questions come in from Ian Finno, who's at Tommy Speak with Caddy.
Oh, nice.
Earlier this year on Sky, we had to pick our Ryder Cup teams. And at that time, Tommy wasn't in my team. He wasn't quite informed. I didn't have him in there. And he just asked, do you still not have Tommy in your Ryder Cup team? Smiley face. And the little monkey face with hands over his eyes. So yes, I'm going to eat humble pie there. I've already responded to him. I've said, fuck's sake, maybe I need to retire from punditry. He's straight in now. So yes, Tommy is straight in that team. He is back with a vengeance, which is brilliant to see. And he's got a top boy there, Finno. So yeah, fair play for that one. Any heads gone? That's my heads gone. What's your heads gone this week?
Well, I had an upgrade to go home, which I was quite happy with on Emirates. So I was, been stacking up some pretty decent points because we come to Dubai so much, and finally got a points upgrade to get home. Just thought, that'd be nice, get myself in business class because I'm going back to the UK tomorrow. I've got buckets of stuff to get on. I need to get home to my wife who's suffering from a chest infection, so I'm hoping she gets well soon. But as soon as I could get my upgrade confirmed and get excited about it, they pulled it back off me. So that was my headguns Emirates Airlines.
that is a proper headgun. Cheers, Emirates. Nice. Cheers. You know what? I keep getting these like lounge offers, and it's like £130 to go and use a lounge, but you can't. It doesn't give you fast track. Doesn't give you any other benefits other than you get to go into their lounge, and like the food's okay, isn't it? But for 130 quid, like, I might as well go and buy my own bottle of champagne outside and just swig it at Starbucks. I just can't. I can't understand what the appeal is.
And without the fast track and knowing the sort of time that you normally turn up to the airport, you'll get about 7 minutes in the lounge. So it's about 15 quid a minute. Doesn't really make sense.
It's the thing. The later you get to the airport, my experience, later you get to the airport, less you queue. They will always try and get you on the flight. Like, honestly, this 2 hour thing, you just rock up and you're like, oh, the flight's closing. Yeah, that's me. They pull you out the queue. On you go. That was the way to roll. That was what my takeaway from 20 years of playing tour life golf. But yeah, we've covered a reasonable amount there, Jimbo. Some nice little sound bites for us there. And I hope everyone's having a really good week. We're going to wrap it up. Like, follow, subscribe at Bear Tiger Club. These are what handles. Bear Tiger. Is it Bear Tiger Club? At Bear Tiger Club.
Yeah.
At Bear Tiger Club is our handles. BearTiger.io is our website. And just get in and get amongst it.
Get amongst it. Right, Zed. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, mate. Enjoy that flight home.
Thank you.